If possible, stop using microfines. So let's talk about what microfines actually are. When you are grinding your beans, you have a set intended grind size. Microfines are grinds that come out finer than your intended grind size. So this is my grinder. This is the Malkonig Tanzania. I actually wanted the EK43, but it looked ugly, at least in my shop. So I went with this one. Now, this grinder is a little bit dirty because we've actually been grinding a lot for this video. But essentially what happens is when I am grinding my beans, I pour my beans in here, I turn it on, and there's a static catcher in here that catches all the microfines. And then, well, not all of it, it catches some of it. And then when I grind into a copper cup. Now that is intentional because the copper cup itself catches a lot of the microfines as well. It has a static to it and it just wants to, hold it. So in a quick way, I actually rub and I don't ever tap my grinder. And that is how I actually remove my microfines. When I am brewing coffees for my customers, it's about 20 grams of beans. So because we're removing the microfines, I actually have to grind 21.6 to 22 grams of beans. But if you guys are new here, my name is Vincent, and I spent all my time trying to figure out how to brew better coffee. So if you guys want to follow along my experimental journey, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you can get the latest updates on my newest techniques. Let's actually grind some coffees. So I've actually waited out here, and then I turn it on. So I don't actually tap my grinder. You're going to notice I will wipe away a lot of grinds. Now these grinds are the microfines that I have caught on for today's video. But not only are they on this copper cup, they are also in the grinder. So static catcher catches this much. You can see that's a decent sized hump. And so this is why I actually have dust flying everywhere. I don't spray my water. I don't try to get rid of it or incorporate it. I try to get rid of it. Now for me, these microfines are more fluffy. They're lighter. So when I have 20 grams real grinds versus 20 grams of the microfines, they look quite different. Let me show you guys. So these are both 20 grams of fines. Now this one is actually what my intended grind size, and then this is the microfines. You're going to notice that these are a little bit higher, and so it actually weighs a lot less, and you can just kind of see it in here. On top of that, the colors are actually quite different. This is actually quite a bit lighter in color than this. So in my opinion, not only is it just finer, it also weighs less. And when it weighs less, that just means to me that it has a lot less flavors. So I believe that these microfines might actually be a cause of the shells of the coffees. So let me explain this to you guys. When we are roasting coffees, we start with green beans, and the green beans have a lot of liquid inside of them, the water. When roasting, you either have a flame source at the bottom, which is direct heat, or then there's like the hot air that kind of comes in contact with it. That's pretty dry. And then those two always hits the outside of the beans itself. It's more on the shell than it does damaging to the middle. Now, during that process, as it's heating up, obviously the water from inside the beans will evaporate and it comes out as steam. During that, I believe it has to pass through the shells of the beans. And in a sense, as it passes through the shell of the beans, some of the flavors may actually have evaporated during the roasting process, which leaves us with this outside that is extra light, has less flavor, and it is a bit more maybe brittle. And so when we are grinding it, it becomes these ultra fine microfines just because it's a little bit easier to kind of break off. I guess in that sense, that is in my mind what I think the microfines are a cause of. Now, there's no way for me to prove this. I wouldn't know how to do it in the first place. If you guys know, let me know in the comments below. But that is what I actually believe could be the case. So let me show you guys in a demo. I'm going to be brewing the two coffees side by side. I'm going to be brewing one coffee of the microfines and then one coffee of the actual coffees. I spent about the last 30 minutes carefully grinding the beans. So maybe you could argue the microfines have oxidized a little bit. But I did my best. I have to wipe away all the grinds and tap them all out one batch at a time, just because otherwise if I grind too much, too much of the microfines would actually fall into the thing. So in the test itself, I will be using, the only constant I'll be probably using is the water temperature. I will be keeping everything at the same temperature. But the problem with it is I have to brew them differently just because I don't want to over extract the microfines and then tell you it doesn't taste very good. I still want to do my best in terms of my brewing sense to brew out properly brewed coffees, whether it's with the microfines or just the normal coffee itself. So let me set up and get ready to show you guys what the differences between the two are. Here we've got the two different coffees. In the glass one, we've got the microfines, and then in the other one, we've got the normal coffees. So we're just going to start 91 degree water straight in the middle. As always, we'll be doing a single pour. Now, because these don't give off as much gas, I assume there's just like chaff and stuff like that stuck in there. We're just going to do our best and judge when the coffees are done brewing. Working nice and slow into the middle. We're just going to wait for everything to kind of lift and crack. See the crack now? Get to the edges. You know what? 260 grams of water. So I actually ended up using the same amount of water in both. We've got ourselves 260 grams in both of them. Now this one's kind of interesting because I guess some of the lighter stuff really just floats to the top really slowly and it just stays there. I guess you would have to use a lot more agitation to hit everything down. But effectively, there's still some stuff left on the walls and they're just really pasty. It looks really pasty. On the left side, Our grinds look a lot more normal. It's just a great brew. A lot of crema. This one didn't have any of that. Right off the bat, though, like the colors are quite similar, in fact. I want you guys to know I actually never ran this test officially, so I am actually doing this in front of you guys. Yeah, you can definitely taste the papery and the bitterness in the coffee with the chaff. Certainly, just off the looks, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. They had very similar colors. I will say though, the coffee that's brewed with the proper grind size, that one it looked like it was a little bit more murky, so a little bit more oils. But honestly, the flavor is like night and day. These definitely papery, bitter, and a lot more like zesty. Your tea-like flavors will probably be coming out from here as well. Personally speaking, I don't think they taste very good. You guys can run this test yourself as well. I think the coffee with just the intended grind size tastes a lot better. So I encourage removing the microfines if you are able to do so. So the coffee with the microfines only actually reminds me of a very special video. When I first started this YouTube channel, Eric was still with us as a partner, and he actually did a video where he boiled coffee. We took whole beans and then we put them in a pot, and then we just kind of boiled it for like 5 to 10 minutes. And the flavors in a boiled coffee reminds me of the coffee inside of the microfine brewed coffee. So it is in a sense kind of related, because I do think that the skin or the outside of the coffee does give off most of these papery and kind of like acidic flavors. And the boiled coffee is kind of cool because you're mostly brewing the outside of the bean. You don't really hit the inside. You can actually try this yourself. You can boil coffee for like a very long time and you won't actually get a lot of like strong flavors. And that was actually kind of interesting. So like a 5 to 10 minute boil will result in quite an acidic coffee. So it is very reminiscent of the actual Microfines coffee itself. Now, a little thing to note is when we are grinding for the Microfines, when I am removing some of it, sometimes it could be it could actually retain some of the good particles that are in there. So when we're removing some of the Microfines, we might actually be removing some of the good coffees as well. And that is why the colors are a little bit darker. And you can taste some of the decent flavor notes in there, but there's hardly any. It's mostly just that papery thinness. There's a very tea-like body, and you can just tell there's also a lot less oils. So for those of you that can remove the microfines, just kind of like the way I do try the test out. Let me know in the comments how you guys found the results. You will waste a lot of beans, probably. I did at least. I grinded like almost a kilo just to test some of this stuff out. But this was like throughout the last like 20-30 minutes, and luckily some people wanted bags of coffees that were ground up, so I had the ability to kind of make this video a little bit easier. But yeah, if possible, I would suggest not using the microfines. And another thing is there are some tips that I can give you guys to remove some of the microfines. If you guys have a jar and you store it, you can actually shake it. And when you shake it, you break some of the skin off, and the skin is just kind of like, it's just like friction to friction. It's really flimsy, it's really thin, and it comes off the sides, and you'll notice just kind of sticking to the walls of your container. And when you shake it hard enough, you can actually remove a lot of the chaff. So that's one way to remove some of the chaff. You can kind of pour it between two containers itself, and then afterwards, when you grind it, you can use the paper towel method. So essentially what it is you take a paper towel and then you pour your ground beans on it, and then you kind of rub it against there. The boulders are easier to rub off, and then the microfines kind of get stuck to the paper filter. That is probably one of the best ways to remove it. I believe Lance Hedrick, and James Hoffman both did a video on this, and you guys can just check that out there. But yeah, it's pretty simple. Paper towel, pour your grinds on there, rub it, and then whatever comes off is probably the good stuff. So if you guys like this kind of stuff, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and let me know what you guys think about this. I know not everybody has the ability like me to remove their microfines, but if you're able to, I encourage you to do so. And when it comes to espresso, I know a lot of people like to tell me that these are good for pressure. I just think if possible, I would find a way to remove it in espresso as well. I just don't know how to because my niche is unable to do so. And I would grind finer to build up the pressure because they don't taste very good. So yeah, thanks for listening. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and catch you guys in the next one. Bye.